Hey, so how do I use what I learned in this class to make myself a more efficient and effective teacher? Well, there was a lot to think about. First thing that was really eye-opening to me was the thought of exactly how much of an impact my praise or what I say to a student has. I mean, I know that students take what you say very personally and they think about it a lot, but I never really thought about what kind of praise I was giving my students or how I was praising them. Was it contingent upon something? Was I praising them for the work they had done, or was I just giving them what could sound like an empty praise, such as, "Great job, you're so smart," or something along those lines. And it was actually interesting because after we read that whole chapter about how, and we watched the video about be careful how you praise your students and think about what you're saying and what you're praising them for, I realized I have a niece who's 6 years old and she is very, very, very smart. And we tell her all the time how smart she is, and we say, "Good job, you're so smart." And it made me stop and think that if we just keep telling her that she's so smart, that's why she's so good at these things, is she going to get to the point where it's not easy, so she must not be smart? That was a really eye-opening lesson for me. One truly remarkable thing that I've seen make an impact in my classroom, even in the first week that I taught it, was even just the simple gesture of choral responses. When my hands are up, we're thinking, and when my hands come down, we all say it together. Now, of course, to this day, I still have one or two students who want to blur, who forget, but it's been a really positive response that I've seen, and it has helped me to remember not to rely on calling on volunteers, but rather expecting a response from everyone. And that is one thing I have always done, is that when I ask for a class response, I have always said to my students, "No, I asked for a class response. I need you all to answer me, please." And it's funny because sometimes we have to do it 3 or 4 times. They say, "Nope, wait, what does this mean?" And then they say, "Think." And I say, "What does this mean?" And they say, "It means talk." And so, we go, put my hands up and they say, "Think." Put my hands down, they say, "Talk." And then we go through and I ask the question again, I say, and finally they get it right again. I will say we were doing really, really well with it. And then we had a week and a half off from school because of Hurricane Matthew. And even with 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, you get a week and a half off and it's like starting completely from scratch. So frustrating and just so, it can be defeating in some ways. But luckily, because they are 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, they do tend to remember it a little bit faster than, my kindergartners and 4-year-olds used to last year. Another thing that was really interesting and kind of eye-opening was that lesson about your mindset and how are we, that what kind of went hand in hand with the praise, and how do we, how are we teaching our students? Are we focusing on how smart they are, or do we focus on, no, you need to work hard. This is not easy, and if you work hard, you will get there. It's, as I said in that reflection, I never really stopped to consider where I got my mindset, or even really what one would consider was my mindset. I always just knew that if you work hard, you get things done. It's not always easy, and it's not always right the first time. You may have to try it again and again and again, but eventually it's accomplished, and you get to say, "You know what? I did it," and it feels so much better because it wasn't easy. I think so often our students and, well, today's society gets so wrapped up in, I need it now, it needs to be done now, it needs to be right now, it must be perfect. It's this instant gratification society, and the idea of working hard for something is just abhorrent. But I want it now. Why can't I do it now? I don't want to have to work for it. I don't want to do it 3 weeks from now. And so, in some ways, it's really challenging to kind of cultivate that growth mindset to say, but it's so much better this way. Because so many of them have it just so ingrained that I don't have to work hard. It's just mine. Give it. Or I don't want to work because I can't do it anyways. And it certainly doesn't help that I work in an area where many of my students have absent parents or less than interested parents. It certainly brings a whole new challenge to this. What else makes me a more efficient educator? The lesson about pacing. I never realized exactly how many tangents I get on until that lesson. I really have tried to work on that, to focus on staying focused. And there are some classes I do great with. We go, 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 go. We get everything done. We have extra time at the end. It's great. And then I have other classes that it's not that they're bad. I'm not dealing with behavior the whole time. It's that someone asks me a question and then someone else asks, and we just, and they're not bad questions. They're not questions that don't have anything to do with what we're talking about. But through this series of questions that I get, we go from being on task and being on topic to slowly every question deteriorating farther and farther and farther away from where we are until all of a sudden I say, wait a minute, it's not a bad question, and I know you're not trying to interrupt or distract me, but this is not where we're supposed to be. And so then, we have to take a step back and we have to refocus, and it is, I have one 6th grade class on Thursdays that they're great kids. They're so smart. They're so excited to learn. They want to know things. And I've had to just, I have a gesture now. I go like this, when I can see a student who's I say, nope, we're going to save it for later. And it's funny now because they do it with me. I'm like, my hands come up and all of a sudden they're doing it with me. And, they kind of giggle and we move on. But it's not always digressions that come from a student who doesn't want to learn that you have to be aware of. It's those digressions that come from students who are genuinely interested, and they do ask an on-point, on-task question that someone else then asks something a little less on task and a little less on task. And again, no one's doing it on purpose. They're not trying to derail the lesson. They just thought about what their classmate had asked, and they, and it just kind of spirals out of control, or domino effects from there. Let's see, what else? Being prepared has always been really key, and it's amazing how even just feeling off kilter for one lesson throws your whole day off. And to go kind of hand in hand with that, being prepared, but then also having everything all set, and having everything all set every time your students come into the room. Even something as small as not being on the right page in the PowerPoint presentation when your next class walks through the door can really, it gives them 30 seconds, 45 seconds to get off task and be somewhere else. And with only 5 minutes between each class, it's been a little bit of a challenge for me to try and combat that, to be able to have everything set and everything ready to go so that we're not wasting the first minute or minute and a half or even the first 45 seconds, because over an entire school year, 190 days of, 45 seconds missed, that's a lot of time that we could have, we certainly wouldn't have learned an entirely new skill, but if we add all that time up together, that is so much time, and we have so much more to do with that time than watch Miss Cormier get her materials together. So all in all, there were a lot of things to really think about. But for me, like I said, that idea of praise and how we focus it and the emphasis on which we put our praise, not the words, not so much like how it comes out of my mouth, but what am I emphasizing that the student did? Am I emphasizing that they completed a project? Okay, good. But am I emphasizing that they had good sentence structure? Did I emphasize that their rhythms were correct? What part of that completed assignment or task or skill am I praising? A lot of interesting things to think about. I quite enjoyed the class. Thank you.